this was the 3rd of May. I will always remember that date because the visuals, I saw the visuals, I think बहुत लोगों ने देखा. Like a state burning, house after house in flames in 2023 in the biggest democracy in the world.
Manipur is burning.
मैं पॉपी फील्ड गया नहीं हूँ एंड मैं गया इसलिए नहीं हूँ क्योंकि मेरे को एक्सेस मिलेगा ही नहीं. I'll be shot before I get access. We have just stopped talking about how there has been no internet for more than a month. मेरे को इंटरनेट मिलता था दिन में 15 मिनट. निकाल के पता नहीं उनको क्या लगा, गन है या वेपन है, वो खोला, चेक किया. मेन रोड पे कौन आएगा और गन रख के चले जाएगा? है AK-47 है, AR-56 है, ग्रेनेड्स हैं, एमिनिशन है. शायद मैंने हेलुसिनेट किया, शायद मेरी इतनी फटी पड़ी थी कि आई इमेजिन्ड इट, बट आई थॉट कि एक ग्रेनेड अनपिन्ड है. इम्फाल में आई स्पेंट अ होल डे जस्ट गोइंग अराउंड द होल सिटी एंड आई सॉ at least 150 burnt houses. And then eventually we figured out कि 355 नहीं है. So if you Google it right now, 355, there's a few. Yeah, there are a lot of things going on, but not 355. To them, Nagas are not foreigners. Nagas are not outsiders, but to them, a lot of Kukis are Burmese from Myanmar.
Welcome to Crox Socks, Pixie. I'm glad you made it, bro. I'm so happy you're here.
Happy to be here. Thank you for calling me.
भाई मैं Saptarshi, I was fucking up your name big time, you know, I was just using all kinds of words. How do you spell it? Saptarshi, right?
Saptarshi,
Yeah.
there is no extra I, but like people
See, I butchered it again.
No, but it's like, that's why I'm called all sorts of things. Sapta, Sapat, S, SB, everything. But
Which is your favorite one?
I think just my official nickname is Pixie, given to me by my parents. So that's what I've been called. College से जब बाहर पढ़ने गया तब भी और अभी नौकरी में भी. तो
Is Saptarshi is 7 sages की वही?
yeah, that constellation.
अच्छा.
So I think West में उसको Great Bear कहते हैं.
हाँ.
यहाँ पे सप्तर्षि कहते हैं. And हाँ, नाम याद रहता है लोगों को. बुचर करते हैं pronunciation, but याद रहता है. सप्ता
अच्छा. फिर ये जो कॉन्सलेशन और सेजेस वाला एंगल भी है, तो अब गुरुजी आप बताइए मणिपुर में चल क्या रहा है?
मैन तो कहाँ से शुरू करें, आप बताइए कहाँ से शुरू?
मुझे ये समझना है कि हिस्टोरिकली क्या हो रहा है, क्योंकि एक स्पार्क मुझे दिख रहा है जो हाई कोर्ट ने जजमेंट पास की थी, जिसके वजह से देयर वाज अपराइजिंग, थोड़ा सा अनरेस्ट. पर उसके बियॉन्ड अगर मैं ट्रेस बैक करूं तो मैं कहाँ से देखूं कि अच्छा ये एक सिंगुलर इवेंट है या फिर मल्टीपल इवेंट्स हुए जिसके वजह से जो अनरेस्ट अभी चल रहा है, जो इतना वायलेंट है, जो पीपल आर गेटिंग किल्ड, हाउ डिड इट स्टार्ट?
तो ब्रीफ में हिस्ट्री देते हैं क्योंकि आई मीन इतना कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है कि शायद मैं भी पूरा जस्टिस नहीं कर सकता. तो मैं उतना ही बताऊंगा जितना मैं श्योर हूँ, विच आई थिंक इज ओके. The main rift, the main violence is going on between two communities. एक तरफ मेतेइज हैं जो मोस्टली हिंदूज है, बट मेतेइज में क्रिश्चियंस भी होते हैं, मुस्लिम्स भी होते हैं. मुस्लिम्स को पंगाल बोलते हैं, PANGAL. दूसरी तरफ है कुकीज. दे आर ट्राइबल्स एंड दे आर फ्रॉम द हिल्स जिसे कहते हैं, एंड द मेतेइज आर इन इम्फाल विच दे कॉल द वैली. तो अब इसका अगर मैं देखूँ, द डिवाइड गोज लॉन्ग बैक, एंड एज यू सेड कि जो स्पार्क था वो तो रिसेंट था, बट स्पार्क ने इतना बड़ा आग इसीलिए फैलाया है क्योंकि ऑलरेडी बहुत ही वॉलेटाइल था. इट्स लाइक पेट्रोल वहाँ पे फैला हुआ था. एंड अगर कहीं से शुरू करना हो तो बहुत जल्दी आई वुड स्टार्ट मे बी सेंचुरीज अगो, अराउंड 800-900 ईयर्स पहले कांगलिए पाक बोल के एक किंगडम होता था. दैट वॉज फाउंडेड बाय द मेतेइज, अ मेते किंग. देयर वुड बी tribes in the area, Kukis, Nagas, Chin, so these are all different tribes and sub-tribes. And they lived with each other, they fought with each other, they traded with each other, सब कुछ हुआ एकदम, मतलब back and forth, based on everybody's convenience.
Right.
फिर 1819 में, I know बहुत आगे जंप कर रहा हूँ, but 1819 में बर्मा ने इन्वेट किया. तो आपके व्यूअर्स और आप लोग इस चीज़ को थोड़ा रिसर्च कर सकते हैं. If you just Google 7 years of devastation, that's what they call it. Burma ने इन्वेट किया, and then Burma had kept control of Manipur, what was the Kangleipak Kingdom, Manipur, for 7 years until then the British came in. Okay. So that was like the first Anglo-Burmese war. The British won. So then Manipur became what is officially known as a protectorate. Right. You know, British chalati thi jagah ko. Then the Manipuris again rebelled, but this time against the British. So then that became the Anglo-Manipur War. And that was in 1891, which the British won, aram se. They crushed them. So then Manipur became what all of us would know from our class 10 civics, Manipur became a princely state. अब 1891 के बाद तो बाकी इंडियन इंडिपेंडेंस मूवमेंट की स्टोरी है, वो सब तो बहुत ही ज़्यादा कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है, बट बॉटम लाइन इज कि इंडिपेंडेंस के बाद मणिपुर was also given a choice, like Kashmir, like Junagadh, like Hyderabad. It was given a choice तुम either India में रहो या पाकिस्तान में जाओ या independent रहो. Maharaja of Manipur at the time chose independence, but as with every other princely state, he was, well, some say arm twisted, some say he agreed. That Patel convinced him to become a part of India. Then in 1956, it became a union territory, and then in 1972, Manipur became a state. Now, all this while the Meiteis are not in the scheduled tribe category. क्योंकि उस time scheduled tribe आ गया था constitution के साथ. The Kukis and the Nagas and other tribes are part of the scheduled tribes territory, which means, and this is what the whole violence is about, which is why I will really emphasize on the one word that I'm going to say here, and that is land. ज़मीन के ऊपर है ये पूरा मुद्दा, जिसकी जो communities ST tribe में included है, they have the legal right to buy land anywhere in the state of Manipur. The Meiteis, who are not in that ST category, it's not that they don't have the right to buy land in the tribal areas. It is that they have to seek consent.
Right.
And that consent is based on constitutional law, Article 371. It's based on Manipur ke local laws. It's based on the forest laws also. There's a Forest Act 1927 that says, you can't just give away forest land. You have to ask the inhabitants. So Meiteis can only buy tribal land if they ask them for consent, and then there are tribal bodies, autonomous district councils कहते हैं, they have to give consent. Now the Meiteis don't like this. उनका कहना है कि भाई कांगले पाक Meiteis ने शुरू किया था, हमारा ज़मीन, हमारा लैंड, हमारा हिस्ट्री, हम भी लड़े हैं बर्मा से, हम भी लड़े हैं ब्रिटेन से, ये क्या बात हुई? कुकीज़ कहते हैं, एंड दिस इज इम्पॉर्टेंट, कुकीज़ कहते हैं कि देखो तुम्हारे पास ऑलरेडी सब कुछ है, एंड व्हाट दे मीन बाय दैट इज दैट द मणिपुर गवर्नमेंट इज मोस्टली कंपोज्ड ऑफ Meiteis. There are 60 seats in the assembly, 40 belong to the Meiteis because they are in that valley region, Imphal West, Imphal East, Kakching, Bishnupur.
और जो constituencies होती हैं, it is mostly population based, right?
Correct.
तो
yeah.
अगर majority Meitei people are
exactly
in the plains, तो उनकी constituency ज़्यादा होगी.
Exactly. That's how the boundaries are drawn.
Yeah.
So the Kukis say कि you have the government, you have the legislature, you have pura economic control, because it's true the Kukis live in the forests, the hills, and वहाँ पे, I mean, you won't find a Silicon Valley over there, right? वहाँ पे income, main source of income is still farming, it's livestock, etc. Just exactly how tribes have always lived. Whereas Imphal में, in the valley, there is tech advancement, there are jobs, there are schools, there are colleges. So अब the Kukis say कि that Meiteis don't need ST status, and any such attempt means that they will try to take our land. हमारे पास वैसे भी कुछ नहीं है, तो भाई हमको हमारा ज़मीन रखने दो. तो इस लैंड के मुद्दे पे पूरा ये sort of गुस्सा बिल्डअप हुआ है, एंड जैसे आपने बोला, the trigger was when Manipur High Court delivered a verdict recommending the Manipur government to, अब यहाँ पे चॉइस ऑफ वर्ड्स भी बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग हो जाते हैं, बिकॉज दे डिडंट ब्लैंकेटली से कि एसटी डिमांड है तो दे दो इनको एसटी कैटेगरी में. दे सेड मणिपुर गवर्नमेंट, आई विल रिकमेंड यू टू कंसिडर गिविंग द Meiteis a place in the ST category. And
ये recommendation would be sent to the center, right? Center के पास जाएगी.
Yes. So everything sort of oscillates between state ka high court, state government, central government, and Supreme Court sometimes if necessary. So nothing has been put in stone yet at all.
Right.
But just that recommendation was enough to fuel fear amongst the Kukis कि भाई ये पहला कदम है हमारा ज़मीन छीनने के लिए. इस verdict के बाद ही, and I should just quickly give some more context very जल्दी, कि ये verdict didn't happen in isolation. मार्च में एक कुकी विलेज में एक eviction drive था. Kukis were thrown out saying कि you are encroaching on protected reserved land. So plenty of things have been happening. Churches have been demolished. Churches, Christians, Kukis. So churches have been demolished by the government because they're saying these churches are illegal. So Kukis ka suspicion really build up हुआ है in the recent past. And जब ये high court order आया, that was like the final nail in the coffin. They took out a huge rally, and then that rally escalated. And this was the 3rd of May. I will always remember that date because I saw the visuals, I think बहुत लोगों ने देखा. Like a state burning, house after house in flames in 2023 in the biggest democracy in the world. This is not a war zone country like Sudan or like Syria right now, but that's what they were saying. कि एकदम Syria जैसा लग रहा है, Sudan जैसा लग रहा है. So that is the very, not so brief, but that is the context that I could give.
I think you have mostly covered, like I had a good timeline कि कहाँ से क्या शुरू हुआ और एक पिक्चर है. बट क्विकली एक चीज़ मैं टच करना चाहूँगा. जब इविक्शन वगैरह हो रही थी, जब हटाया जा रहा है कि इंक्रोच हो रहा है, एक नार्को टेररिज्म पे बहुत ज़्यादा एक मुद्दे पे हाईलाइट हुआ है कि पॉपी उग रहा है वहाँ पे. Like, is it happening? What is going on there?
Yeah, so the poppy factor is so sensitive and so sort of contested on facts from all sides कि मैं भी जो भी बोलूँगा आपको अभी I will always start my sentence with ये लोग ये बोलते हैं और ये लोग ये बोलते हैं, because frankly मैं पॉपी फील्ड गया नहीं हूँ, and मैं गया इसलिए नहीं हूँ क्योंकि मेरे को एक्सेस मिलेगा ही नहीं. I'll be shot before I get access. तो the Meiteis say कि ये जो Kukis हैं, a majority of them or a lot of them are foreign illegal immigrants from Burma. And they say कि ये लोग बर्मा से पॉपी के सीड्स ला रहे हैं, यहाँ पे प्लांट कर रहे हैं, स्मगल कर रहे हैं टू back to Burma and the rest of the country, and this is sort of their mini economy. And ये लोग लैंड इसलिए यूज कर रहे हैं पॉपी कल्टिवेशन के लिए. So that is what the Meiteis allege. But the Kukis say कि first of all they say कि देखो all of this is just a pretext. The Chief Minister Biren Singh is using this to achieve his actual goal, which is the word being used is majoritarian. Biren Singh Hindu है, Biren Singh Meitei है, तो वो अपने community का देख रहा है.
This is said by Kukis.
This is said by Kukis, yeah. Kukis also say that हाँ, Kuki cultivators हैं, poppy cultivators हैं जो Kuki community के हैं, but the actual drug lords are Meiteis because they are the ones who are controlling ऊपर का, हाँ, and they have connections to the government and the CM office. So very serious allegations, and it's really difficult to prove these things, especially after the 3rd of May क्योंकि internet नहीं है. I think because it's the Northeast and because there is the Northeast neglect, जिसे कहते हैं. I think a lot of us, we have just stopped talking about how there has been no internet for more than a month. So मैं था मणिपुर में for 5-6 days and मेरे को internet मिलता था दिन में 15 मिनट. तो I really suffered, man. Like 10 बजे के बाद रात को मैं क्या करूँ.
और एक स्पॉट थी ना जहाँ पे इंटरनेट प्रेजेंट था, like there was some place,
the government office, in Imphal. So that is where I would go बहुत ही slow, पता नहीं किसका hotspot. But sorry, poppy. So anyway, so that is what both sides say. क्या सच है, क्या झूठ है? The easiest way to do it would be to launch an investigation, but I don't think the government will, because if the government had to, it would have a while ago. I also think there has to be some senior involvement here, because doing this on a large scale needs thoda upar se sanction. And but again, who am I to say anything? I, as a reporters in general would want to investigate. For that, you need to be there for months. You need a lot of money. You need to live with them. You need to drink their alcohol. You need to dance with them, eat with them, really get comfortable with them until one day they say, okay, let me take you.
Yeah.
But until then, this poppy question, which is really contested but has also become a major source of fake news. ये poppy वाला सवाल बहुत important है और बहुत sensitive भी है, तो इसलिए अपनी तरफ से मैं कुछ certainty के साथ मैं बोलूँगा.
I understand. Like you mentioned, you were in Manipur. हाँ, कितने दिन के लिए थे?
मैं था 6 दिन. I was there 7 तारीख से 13 तारीख तक. And I think it was the most different experience I've ever had in my life. 2 hours in Imphal airport से जब मैं चूराचांदपुर जा रहा था, जहाँ पे violence शुरू हुआ था,
वहीं पे protest
था. चूराचांदपुर is the main tribal district. तो between Imphal and चूराचांदपुर एक district आता है बिष्णुपुर, and वहाँ पे मेरा टैक्सी को रोका गया by this civilian vigilantes का checkpoint holding iron dandas and sticks, like 30-40 of them. opened my car, I looked at my ID, पीछे डिक्की खोला गाड़ी का, सूटकेस निकाला, सूटकेस खोला, ट्राईपॉड था उसमें, कवर्ड था, निकाल के पता नहीं उनको क्या लगा, गन है या वेपन है, वो खोला, चेक किया, अच्छा 20-25 मिनट का था एंड मेरी तो बहुत फटी थी।
वो मैं पूछ रहा था फ्रिस्किंग पहले कभी हुई है ऐसी की मतलब
Aliens no, by sheer mob strength, मतलब क्या बोलूँ मैं उनको कि तुम जो कर रहे हो वो इलीगल है, भड़काऊंगा मैं उनको ये बोल के। सो मेरी तो फटी थी एंड द मोस्ट आई कुड डू वाज टेल देम कि हाँ ठीक है, मैं अभी चूड़ाचांदपुर जा रहा हूँ रिपोर्टिंग करने, पर मैं इम्फाल भी आऊँगा, आप मेरे पहले के रिपोर्ट्स देखिए, मैं मेतीस के ऊपर भी रिपोर्ट कर रहा हूँ। सो it's not like journalists over there are in grave danger right now because nobody over there is out to get you. मतलब this I can say कि I don't think Meiteis, Kukis, Nagas कोई भी journalist को मारना नहीं चाहता because A, that does not give them a good name, and B, everybody wants their story told. To be ever is their fault here. डर होता है of getting hurt in collateral. You know, एक मैं रिपोर्ट करने गया था, एक एमएलए के बाहर एक ड्रॉप बॉक्स था, एमएलए को पता नहीं सडनली सुबह उठ के एक ब्राइट आइडिया मिला कि एक डब्बा रख देता हूँ घर के बाहर और जितने भी गन्स और बुलेट्स और एमिनिशंस दैट वर लूटेड फ्रॉम पुलिस स्टेशंस अक्रॉस द स्टेट सब आके यहाँ रख दो फॉर द लार्जर प्रोस्पेक्ट ऑफ पीस। मुझे लगा ठीक है भाई, मजे के लिए कर रहा है, पर फिर मैं एडिटर ने बोला कि नहीं तुम जाके वीडियो रिपोर्ट बना के हो। मैंने बोला ठीक है भाई, किसने ही रखा होगा गन्स, कौन मेन रोड पे कौन आएगा और गन रख के चले जाएगा। मैं गया, वहाँ पे डब्बा था, मैं बोला ओके, स्टिल आई वाज लाइक कुछ हो नहीं सकता एंड आई पीप्ड इनसाइड। पे है AK-47 है, AR-56 है, ग्रेनेड्स हैं, एमिनिशन है, एंड ग्रेनेड दूर से शायद मैंने हेलुसिनेट किया, शायद मेरी इतनी फटी पड़ी थी कि आई इमेजिन्ड इट, बट आई थॉट कि एक ग्रेनेड अनपिन्ड है, लगा हुआ नहीं था। तो आई जस्ट टोल्ड माई कैमरा पर्सन, माई ड्राइवर कि भाई एक टेक में लो, निकलो यहाँ से, क्योंकि एज ऑल माई फ्रेंड्स टोल्ड मी बिफोर आई लेफ्ट, नो स्टोरी इज वर्थ योर लाइफ। सो आई क्विकली डिड दैट टेक एंड आई जस्ट ड्रोव ऑफ। बट आई थिंक that incident is sort of representative of what's going on in Manipur right now. It's absolute chaos. Nobody cares for the law. Nobody knows who is on whose side. And the state is completely partitioned. मतलब partitioned in the sense कि एक और story जो मैंने करा था कि the partition has gone to the extent of the police force being completely partitioned. You would think that security forces में ऐसा नहीं होगा. Security forces, तुम यहाँ पे posted हो, यहीं रहोगे. कुकी एरियाज में जितने भी मेते ऑफिसर्स थे, दे आर ऑल बैक इन इम्फाल एंड दे आर ऑन अनऑफिशियल ड्यूटी। उनके पास उनके यूनिफॉर्म्स भी नहीं है क्योंकि वो बस भागे हैं। द सेम फॉर कुकी ऑफिसर्स इन इम्फाल, दे हैव कम बैक टू चूड़ाचांदपुर। मेरे को एसपी साहब बोल रहे हैं कि हमने उनको बोला है जल्दी से यूनिफॉर्म स्टिच अप करो ताकि तुमको लॉ एंड ऑर्डर ड्यूटी पे रख पाएं, क्योंकि ये लोग वापस नहीं जा रहे। सो दीज सॉर्ट ऑफ स्टोरीज आर रिप्रेजेंटेटिव ऑफ द एब्सोल्यूट कोलैप्स ऑफ लॉ, ऑर्डर, पीस in Manipur. And being there, it was pretty obvious, man. Imphal mein, I spent a whole day just going around the whole city and I saw at least 150 burnt houses. And these are not gaon jaise chote houses. These are big houses, not high-rise buildings, but apartments. Trees that grow up till the 3rd floor of sorts. वो tree के leaves पूरे जले पड़े हैं because that's how ऊपर the fire went. And it was just very evident, and after a point I also got desensitized. After a point, talking to people about their loss, I was like, okay, another one. Seeing another burnt house, I was like, okay, another one. But yeah, in the beginning,
you have to have a heart. अगर आप ऐसी चीज़ें कर रहे हो कवर करने के लिए, वो एक certain amount of, like the word you use, desensitization need है ही है, वरना आप कवर नहीं कर पाओगे।
वरना नौकरी ठीक से होगी नहीं। Yeah, either you chicken out, which is understandably acceptable. I mean, I know people who want to go to Manipur, पर उनके editors जाने नहीं दे रहे क्योंकि उनके editors are like, तुमको कुछ हुआ तो responsibility हम पे, selfish reason. But the danger element is still so out there कि reporters are also not safe. तो yeah, you need a heart, you need थोड़ा सा, you need, I guess, just the passion of being out on the field. Like, I think as a reporter, and every reporter says this, you know, you feel most alive when you're on the field, but when the field is a conflict zone, the game becomes a little...
rattles you a little.
Yeah. The game is a little different when the chances of death on the field are slightly higher than covering something else. So, overall, I learned a lot. I am glad I went there. But man, it was unnerving. 100%.
ये आर्म्स वाला जो एंगल था, जैसे जो बोला उन्होंने एमएलए ने कि रख दो अपना, एक तो इट टर्न्ड आउट टू बी अ ब्राइट आइडिया. मतलब
Yeah.
आई वाज नॉट एक्सपेक्टिंग इट वुड, बट इट डिड. पर ये पहली बारी मुझे लगा है कि इतने बड़े अनरेस्ट में दोनों साइड के पास, क्योंकि यू आर मेंशनिंग जैसे पुलिस स्टेशन, आई मे बी रॉन्ग, जो कहाँ से लूट किया है उन्होंने, लाइक
From station.
from stations, and they got the guns. Like both Meiteis and Kukis, both of them have guns right now.
A lot.
ऐसे, और ये भी नहीं है कि सिंगल बैरल या फिर कोई ऐसा से दे हैव असॉल्ट राइफल्स,
एकदम.
यू मेंशन
Highly automatic.
ग्रेनेड वगैरह है.
Yeah.
इस लेवल को सिक्योरिटी फोर्सेस डील पहले मुझे नहीं लगता उन्होंने कभी किया था, कि जहाँ दोनों पार्टीज के पास इतना कुछ है टू कॉज मैसिव डैमेज.
Yeah, that's I think one of the biggest puzzles that observers are dealing with. अभी की दंगा एक चीज है जो अनहर्ड नहीं है इंडिया में. हर रोज कहीं ना कहीं होता है. इतने दंगे होते हैं कि कुछ दंगे रिपोर्ट भी नहीं होते क्योंकि इतना नॉर्मल होता है.
राइट.
पर वायलेंस, दंगा, रायट, क्लैश टू अ स्केल की वेपन्स एकदम मतलब सिक्योरिटी फोर्सेस के हाथ में ही नहीं है. मतलब इट्स फ्री फॉर ऑल, एंड देयर आर वीडियोज वेयर द पुलिस इज backing off. The police are running away from a mob while the mob is taking weapons. Of course, they are running for their own lives. So it's really odd about what the state government is doing. हमारे देश में दंगा, riot, violence, clash, ethnic violence, religious violence, communal violence जिसे कहते हैं, एकदम ही अनहर्ड ऑफ नहीं है. इनफैक्ट इतना रेगुलर है कि बहुत बार न्यूज़पेपर्स में रिपोर्ट भी नहीं होता. इवन इंडियन एक्सप्रेस, द हिंदू जैसे पेपर्स में छोटे दंगे रिपोर्ट नहीं होता है, वो लोकल मीडिया में रिपोर्ट होता है. बिग पेपर्स वोंट पिक इट अप बिकॉज लिटरली हर रोज का बात है. बट आई हैवंट सीन, मैं तो चलो बच्चा हूँ अभी भी, आई एम स्टिल वेरी यंग. हिस्टोरिकली आई हैवंट रेड मच अबाउट अ स्टेट गवर्नमेंट or the state police being so incapable of getting things in hand. Matlab, how do you loot a police station, first of all? And what are the police doing? Secondly, how do you not get the army in and launch sort of a sincere, disciplined crackdown in which civilians look? I mean, how do you not even try that? At this moment, there seems to be very little willingness on part of the state. And I don't know, some people are saying that the state is not doing much for political gains, कि गुस्सा build up करो धीरे धीरे. And the conclusion of that is, it's that very important word in politics these days, polarization. तो एकदम बांट दो स्टेट को and वो तुमको election में benefit करेगा. So that is one theory that many people are propagating. The other theory, which is also plausible, is कि सरकार incompetent है and the mob is just too strong. तुम किसको arrest करोगे? What is an arrest when there are 3,000 people?
Mobs की शक्ल ही नहीं होती है.
There is no face. Yeah, तुम FIR पे नाम किसका
रखोगे?
हाँ. तो the mob, and if they had dealt with it शुरू में, then we wouldn't have reached here. But शुरू में, because the mobs were given a free hand, जब इम्फाल में घर after घर जलाया जा रहा था, now the mobs are emboldened. Now the mob is untouchable. And when the mob becomes untouchable, then the mob is always going to be bigger than the police. So I don't know how they are going to deal with the weapons situation. It will probably have to come from a point where both sides agree that any more violence is just going to cost them. Right now, both sides believe that they can attain their goals. The Kukis believe that you put enough pressure and perhaps the government will give a separate administration, which is their main demand.
Right.
The Meiteis believe that separate administration kabhi aane hi nahi wala and we want access to land there. Keep putting pressure. Both sides right now believe कि जो उनके goals हैं वो attainable है, and जब तक attainable है ये violence चलता रहेगा.
पर हम geography को अगर उठा के देखें मणिपुर की, तो वहाँ पे 90% हिल एरियाज, 10% एक वैली है. पर कुकीज के पास एग्री मतलब खेती के लिए इतनी जगह नहीं है. इट्स लाइक वेरी ऑब्वियस थिंग फॉर कुकीज टू आस्क कि हमारे पास वो एरिया नहीं है. पर डेंसिटी उस साइड नीचे बहुत ज्यादा वैली की ऑलरेडी है इस टाइम पे. वो डायनेमिक्स कैसे बैलेंस आउट होंगे?
That's a very good question. See, that's why यहाँ पे ना taking a side is not easy here. the only way some people, including me, sometimes take a side is कि भाई सरकार किसकी तरफ है, कभी-कभी काफी obvious होता है. When the state is with you, then you are bound to sympathize with the underdog. But putting that aside, the grievances of both communities यहाँ पे बहुत obvious है यार. Like 10% of land में 53% of people are living. Population density is quite high. Employment का situation तो पूरे देश में उतना अच्छा नहीं है, तो वहाँ पे भी अच्छा नहीं है. But I think the dynamic में अभी जो सबसे important factor है, यहाँ पे थोड़ा सा ना pride की बात आ रही है. यहाँ पे Meiteis का main grievance है कि हमारा हक है. It's our land. So even if hypothetically, I'm not saying Meiteis live in a very good condition and they are doing very well. I'm saying I think for them it's a matter of this is also our land. We should have the right to buy this. Kukis, on the other hand, are saying exactly what we spoke about earlier. Ki you don't need this. We need this.
Kukis are protected by the law also, no?
By the law, yeah. Their land is protected by the law. And a bunch of laws. 371 Constitution ka, Forest Rights Act, SC/ST Act. So, and then it's not even just Kukis. There are the Nagas also. So we'll probably get to that later. But the Nagas also are a very important tribe in Manipur. And the Nagas are probably the most powerful sort of armed insurgency tribe in the country right now. The only people who used to come close were the Naxals. The Nagas are extremely powerful. So the Kukis are also have to really toe the line and balance sort of fighting and dealing with the Meiteis and at the same time not antagonizing the Nagas, because the Nagas have slaughtered Kukis in the past. In the 1990s, there were 5 years, 93 and 97. The Nagas would enter Kuki villages and throw them out. I think 1,000 ke aspas Kukis died in that 90s wala range. So Naga-Kuki relations have not been pleasant either. So I guess again that's just how one has to see Manipur. You never have the right answer. There is no solution that is going to please everyone. But if there has to be a solution, it has to be one that pleases everyone enough to put down their weapons. But वो अभी हम देख नहीं रहे.
दूर है वो थोड़ा. और नागाज जब पिक्चर में आते हैं तो मेटीज को, कुकी का तो मेंशन कर दिया कि दे आर कीपिंग देयर डिस्टेंस फ्रॉम देम. मेटीज को क्यों इशू नहीं है उनसे, क्योंकि वो भी तो.
So again, बहुत interesting सवाल, and this is, I'm going to just quote you from the interviews I did in Manipur, which is, बहुत Meiteis सोचते हैं, and I'm yet to figure out ये लोग ऐसा क्यों सोचते हैं. बहुत Meiteis सोचते हैं कि Nagas indigenous है. To them, Nagas are not foreigners. Nagas are not outsiders. But to them, a lot of Kukis are Burmese from Myanmar. And I asked this one, so Meitei Lipun is a radical organization of the Meiteis, and unka leader Pramod Singh, जिसने Karan Thapar को भी interview दिया था. I went to his house and I interviewed him. वहाँ भी काफी फटी थी. But I asked him कि, sir, the way you are calling indigenous, the way you are calling Kukis non-indigenous, would you say the same for Nagas? And they said, no, Nagas are very much a part of Manipur. And that's a pretty standard response. I don't know if it's out of fear, which is unlikely, because you have the government with you. Nagas are very strong, but you have the government with you. Or is it just out of hostility towards the Kukis कि बाकी सब ठीक है, but Kukis ठीक नहीं है. Though the Meiteis and Nagas are on decent terms right now, which is why East Rai में the Nagas have been absolutely out of it, you know. But if someday in the near future the Nagas do get involved, it is going to get very, very bloody. And I think 2 weeks ago, on the day I was coming back, Naga Council ने एक statement issue किया था कि you know, Kukis want their land protected. We understand you do whatever you want, but not 1 inch of Naga territory will go to you. And that was semi-threatening. So that was giving an indication that the Nagas are now watching.
Right.
So it's really, you know, I hate to say that the worst is yet to come, but I don't know. A lot of observers, people who have been there, people who have spoken to people, think that the worst.
They have a hunch here.
Yeah, the worst is not here yet, because, like, you know, every side still thinks that they can get what they want. And if you have 2 people wrestling in a ring or fighting like boxing, and both of them think, no, I'm not going to give up because I can still win. Keep going. That is what's happening. And once that knockout punch from either side comes, it's going to be very bloody. So that's about it.
एक community form हुई थी, हमेशा went. Then एक कहीं ना कहीं की दोनों में सुलह हो जाए, थोड़ी शांति हुए, Kukis और Meiteis representatives आए थे. वो एक दिन last नहीं हुई.
ना
अभी जब नागा का मेंशन हुआ तो मेरे दिमाग में क्लिक हुआ, क्या नागा को एक पार्टी बना के थर्ड पर्सन से दोनों के बीच से पीस का कुछ देखना चाहिए, और जस्ट थ्रोइंग ऑफ द बैट, बट आई एम लाइक और लोग क्या इन्वॉल्व होना चाहिए, क्योंकि दोनों जन अभी एक दूसरे को देखना ही नहीं चाह रहे.
एग्जैक्टली
They don't want any conversation right now because it's too heated. If Naga people कुकीज को जानती हैं क्योंकि वो साथ ट्राइबल है, शेयर कर रहे हैं, और मेतीस के साथ सम रिलेशन, कैन दे स्टेप अप एंड बी लाइक ओ होल्ड ऑन, लाइक अब मणिपुर में हम भी इफेक्ट हो रहे हैं इस चीज से, प्रॉब्ली कोई उस डायरेक्शन में
could they act as mediators?
राइट.
Nagas are still very powerful. They have quite some clout. They have land. They have Nagaland. They have a whole state of their own. So the percentage of Nagas who live in India after Nagaland, the states are Manipur and maybe Mizoram. So यहाँ पे a lot of Nagas still live. So, and the Naga Socialist Council is still very, very powerful. But I think what the Kukis really want is not even the Nagas on the negotiating table. They want the Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister has just been conspicuously absent. You know, you will hear this every day. हर रोज तुम सुनोगे कि Prime Minister hasn't said a word. अमित शाह आए हैं 3 दिन के लिए, चले गए, फिर से आएंगे, क्या ही हो जाएगा. Prime Minister hasn't said a word. And now there are op-eds and articles being written about, भाई कैसे? A guy who tweets on everything, how is... And it's less of a criticism, मतलब criticism तो है ही, but it's less of criticism, more of just puzzlement. कि what are you achieving here? यहाँ strategy क्या है? Is it some people are saying कि you know, Narendra Modi just wants to be seen as infallible. उसकी गलती है ही नहीं. अब वो कुछ भी बोलेगा, it means acceptance of a role. Others are saying कि you know, he is focusing on national security and national issues. He went to the US. ये बड़ी बातें हैं. So the Kukis, I think they just really want the Prime Minister to intervene. I mean, you listen to them, they say we want President's rule. President's rule matlab the Home Ministry takes over. The Home Ministry and the central government takes over. 356, right. So that's what they want. So I don't think they are okay with the Nagas coming in right now. Also, they don't trust the Nagas. So they are just trying to, again, so a lot of Kukis I spoke to, I reminded them of Naga Kuki hostility, and they said, yeah, we know we have a very bloody past, but right now, we are putting our differences aside. Are you? I don't know. It seems a little optimistic. Meiteis, on the other hand, it's really, I don't know. Meiteis are just very angry right now. Also, Kukis are sort of doing some provocative things. वो लोग एक blockade impose कर रहे हैं. वो लोग भी अपने militancy operations कर रहे हैं. Might be self-defense, might be in response to something, might be reactionary, but वो लोग भी कर रहे हैं. तो Meiteis are also really angry in Imphal. मैं एक होम स्टे में रहा था एक फैमिली के साथ. मैं बहुत सारे पनवाड़ियों पे गया था. मैं बस ऐसे ही चिट चैट कर रहा था, एंड
वही रियल कॉन्वर्सेशन,
वही रियल सड़क पे. एंड द लेवल ऑफ, इट वाज एक्चुअली वेरी सैड, द लेवल ऑफ distrust and anger is irreversible right now. It's going to take a few years. That's accepted right now. It's going to take a few years. So yeah,
356 की बात की आपने. 355 लगने का ऐसा हिंट हो रहा था कि रीडिंग की 355 है नहीं है, थोड़ी कंफ्यूजन चल रही थी वहाँ. क्या चल रहा है वहाँ पे?
So what I remember is वहाँ पे एक, I think was it the superintendent of police? I think it was a very senior police officer who said कि we are invoking 355. But the odd thing was कि जब 355 impose होता है तो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट एक नोटिफिकेशन देता है.
थोड़ा 355 के बारे में बताइए.
355 is the precursor to 356 naturally. 356 is President's rule, which means the state government has been dissolved. So 355...
Center takes over.
Center takes over, yeah. Like this has happened more than 300 times in the history, in the recorded history of independent India. I think Indira Gandhi has done this the most, and what a day to say it. It's 25th June, it's the anniversary of the emergency. But it's something that central governments have resorted to a lot in the past. यहाँ पे confusion ये था कि 355 is step 1, which is कि तुम्हारा security अब state government के हाथ में नहीं है. So the Home Ministry takes over the security first, and then 356 is invoked next.
Okay.
But यहाँ पे the weird thing was कि while that police officer in a press conference, or not even a press conference, it was a video if I remember correctly, he said कि 355 चालू हो गया है and the center will take over the security of Manipur. सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट से कोई अनाउंसमेंट नहीं था, कोई नोटिफिकेशन नहीं था, कोई गजेट था, कोई प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस नहीं था. अमित शाह said nothing about it. So the very next day, people, The Wire and other publications, even us, we started questioning it कि ये क्या हो रहा है. And then eventually we figured out कि 355 नहीं है. So if you Google it right now, 355, there's curfew. Yeah, there are a lot of things going on, but not 355. And so that was quite odd. And it's something that maybe people would talk about more if they cared about Manipur more. ये सब उत्तर प्रदेश में अगर चल रहा होता अभी तक हर TV चैनल में ये चल रहा होता.
कवरेज क्यों नहीं है?
Yeah, couple of reasons. एक तो is northeast neglect. दूसरा northeast में I guess सबसे important state naturally is Assam. And Assam ka CM Himanta is also a big guy right now. He's probably the 4th or the 5th most important person in the BJP right now. He's proclaimed as the king of the northeast. So Manipur, I don't know, like coverage, plenty of reasons why there's no coverage. Northeast, secondly, chota state, barely contributes to the economy.
Total 30 lakh people, and I think
30 lakh people, yeah. They, I think when it started, 3rd May, that was like the peak of the wrestlers' protest also. तो जब नेशनल टीवी चैनल्स, टाइम्स नाउ, NDTV, रिपब्लिक को अगर एक चॉइस करना हो कि 9 बजे के प्राइम टाइम में हम क्या दिखाएंगे, if the choice is between tribal versus non-tribal in Manipur versus Sakshi Malik and Bajrang Punya marching to the new parliament, I think from an editorial, from a profit point of view, the choice was clear. And I don't know, Manipur में coverage really थोड़ा सा escalate हुआ when there was that one MLA, Mulzagin Balte. He went into a coma because his car was attacked. तब people around me were also like, अरे भाई lawmaker को मार दिया यार. तो वो अभी दिल्ली के एम्स में एडमिट हुआ था. अभी भी वो ICU से just निकला है and his cognitive functioning is not the same. But I am happy that reporters are regularly going to Manipur. Of course, उनके काम को उतना व्यूज़ नहीं मिल रहा. अभी जैसे कल रशिया में शायद coup होने वाला था between that Wagner group leader and he was going up to Moscow to march against Putin. I checked out of curiosity. All Indian publications had that as their top story. Express, Hindu. So, because that's Putin, that's Russia, that's the West, that's Ukraine. Manipur, how will people care? But like I said, I'm happy reporters are going there. They are risking their lives. They're doing whatever they can. And I just think it's a great learning experience. And I am positive that people will start to care more. And that is where our responsibility as journalists coming. You make people care. Like that sort of thing.
355 इन्वोक हुआ नहीं, 356 की बात चल रही है प्रेसिडेंशियल.
Yes.
सेंटर को सेंटर अपनी इन्वॉल्वमेंट कैसे करेगा वहाँ पे? सिक्योरिटी फोर्सेस वगैरह कैसे उस चीज़ को कंटेन और मैनेज कैसे करेगा अगर अभी कुछ नहीं हुआ है?
या सो 356 अगर ब्लैंकेट अप्लाई हो जाता है,
फिर अभी तक कैसे सिचुएशन चल रही है? फिर अभी क्या हो रहा है?
अभी तो there's neither 355 nor 356, which means Biren Singh, the chief minister, his government is still very much there. He is like pulling the strings. Well, I mean, at least on paper, that's what we see. He is controlling the cops. The other main security agency is Assam Rifles.
Right. But security forces बोला जा रहा है कि 40 के around security forces अभी इस time
there are काफी different types of. There's Reserve Action Force, BSF, Border Security Force, Assam Rifles. So these are of course all sort of national security agencies. But the law and order में Biren Singh is still making all the calls because so the difference is if the central government takes over with 356, Biren Singh loses his job. That's what 356 does. The chief minister is not chief minister anymore. So it's like Kashmir right now. Kashmir has no chief minister. It has a governor. But that governor is appointed by the center. So that's how that works. And the reason why the Kukis want 356 is because they've completely lost faith in Biren Singh. So their way of saying that Biren Singh should resign, and I think they're doing it pretty well here. It's a very smart move. Their way of saying that Biren Singh should resign is not to go on the streets and scream, Biren Singh resign, Biren Singh resign. Their way is to shout, we want president's rule. We want the central government to take care of us. It's a very smart play because that way you are bringing attention to the central government's responsibility. Imagine, Kukis are... A whole tribe is saying कि राज्य सरकार में कोई faith नहीं है तो केंद्रीय सरकार आके हमें बचाओ. It's a pretty smart move. Initially I also thought कि भाई 356 तुम क्यों डिमांड कर रहे हो, तुम्हें इतनी जल्दी नहीं मिलेगा. But then I realized it's not about getting 356. It's probably about getting attention. Center से attention. And when you get center से attention, you get mainland India की जनता से attention.
Right.
So that's an interesting move.
अभी असम राइफल्स भी वहाँ पोस्टेड है और असम राइफल्स ऐसा बोला जा रहा है कुकीज़ की जो उनसे मलाल है, जो दुख है, वो ये है कि सॉरी मेतीस की, क्योंकि वो हिली एरियाज में ज़्यादा पोस्टेड रहते हैं, तो उनको मेतीस का कहना है कि वो थोड़े सेंसिटिव है टुवर्ड्स कुकीज प्लाइट, नॉट आवर प्लाइट. मुझे नहीं लगता कि इतने gruesome environment में a person being there whose job is to protect both the sides would not do that job right? तो ये और लोगों का, जैसे चलो असम राइफल्स के साथ दिक्कत है थोड़ी, उनको प्लाइट है, और लोगों का भी इस टाइम पे आना और लोगों को पीस मेकिंग में हेल्प करना कि आप अपनी साइड मत छोड़ो, ये साइड आपकी, ये साइड मेरी साइड है, इज क्रूशल फॉर लेटर कॉन्वर्सेशन कि हमें क्या चाहिए, हमारी डिमांड्स ये है. इट्स लाइक टू कपल्स फाइटिंग, राइट? कि a very crude analogy कि आप पहले उस टाइम जब आप रिजॉल्व, ऑल ऑफ अस हैव बीन देयर इन सम वे, कि जब आप इशू को रिजॉल्व करने जाते हो उस टाइम पे इन द हीट ऑफ द मोमेंट, इट यू नेवर गेट अ सॉल्यूशन, राइट? The thing is to point fingers at each other, is to get into different rooms, let it cool off. And how do you do that is by putting people कि ठीक है थोड़ा लोगों को डालो उधर, सिक्योरिटी फोर्सेस अपना काम करे. अभी जो क्रॉस फायरिंग हो रही है, गोलियां चल रही हैं लोगों के पास है, वो एक बहुत बड़ा मेजर कंसर्न है कि यार ये कैसे रुके, क्योंकि पीपल आर गेटिंग किल्ड फॉर द सेम रीजन. Once we do that, it's a good chance of establishing peace, और फिर वहाँ से कुछ आगे देखते हैं.
It's a good step one.
Yeah.
That has to be step one. And as for the allegations that the Assam Rifles are sympathizing with Kukis, I think that's just a product of them just spending all their time together. I mean, I'm not saying यहाँ पे Stockholm syndrome जैसा कुछ होना है, but I mean, what do you do when Assam Rifles are guarding the Kukis? You can't guard them by firing on them,
right,
continuously threatening them. Then वहाँ पे rebellion शुरू होगा.
For people who don't know Stockholm syndrome,
it's when sort of like the hostage falls in love with the captor because you spend enough time and there's a lot of tension and all that, put very crudely. But I just think the Assam Rifles doesn't want to make things worse for itself by sparking internal rebellions within amongst the people that they are guarding. And look, the Meiteis and Kukis both are free to say what they want. The Kukis are saying that the Assam Rifles and the state government and the police are all in it together against the Kukis. There are videos, I have sourced and produced videos where the Manipur police is in a standoff against Assam Rifles in Kaching, or I think it was Kaching district. So it's, again, and also because there's no internet, it is just so hard for people not in Manipur, in Delhi, in Bombay, reporters everywhere, or even in Guwahati. So the main northeast ka most reporting happens from Guwahati. Like reporters go from Guwahati to whatever, Nagaland, Mizoram, Manipur. Without internet, it is just so difficult. Every time we put out a story, we get an email saying, तुमने ये कैसे notice नहीं किया, ये देखो, ये images देखो, ये videos देखो. तो Meiteis and Kukis, Nagas, they're all free to say, of course they are free to say whatever they want, which they will. They are looking out for themselves. It is our job, journalists, media people, politicians, people like you also who are putting out content about sensitive things like this. It's our job to verify. And agar sure nahi ho, to mat dalo. Because this is not something that you quickly delete and everybody forgets about. This is something somebody will see कि अच्छा ये हमारे village पे attack हुआ कल, अभी दिखाते हैं, counter attack people. It's very sensitive. So हमारे office में भी when we report on Manipur, we always have pretty long discussion about what to put, what to not put, kitna to put. A lot of my interviews are in Kuki dialect. So I have to get those translations word by word. कुछ भी इधर उधर meaning change हो गया, village का नाम change हो गया, and that will qualify as fake news. So these things, I guess, when you report on a conflict zone, you just have to be very careful.
How do you find translators? ऐसे
I have contacts. Yeah. I have contacts in Delhi. I have contacts across the country also, both Meiteis and Kukis, and those जब दिल्ली वाले contacts के पास जब time होता है, तो they come to office and they sit next to me and we do it line by line and I paste it on Premiere Pro while editing. In other cases, I just transfer them the videos and they transfer it back with like line by line subtitles. Of course, that's very much harder because it's second by second कुछ change हो सकता है subtitle. But इसलिए मणिपुर का कंटेंट निकालने में टाइम लगता है. I put out maybe one video a week, which is slow because essentially it should take 2-3 days. But sensitive है, language barrier है, and just conflict zone, you just gotta be careful.
अभी तो $1 million question यही है कि resolution क्या है, which like you पूरे duration में rightly mentioned कि अभी you're figuring out, you're navigating, कुछ नहीं है. But अगर कुछ एक concluding tone पे, if you have a remark, what would that be like?
I think This is a difficult one because there are so many things that I can think of that should be on top of the list. And I don't even want to say these are tight. I want to give a number one. And I genuinely think the first thing that needs to happen is that the Prime Minister has to call for peace, because we may like him, we may hate him, but the hard reality is that this is a man that everybody in the country listens to.
Yeah.
He has everyone's attention. It's very Indira Gandhi like. Manmohan Singh would speak and people, I'm a big fan of Manmohan Singh, but वो command उनके पास नहीं था, लोग सुनते नहीं थे. This is a man who people listen to. If he just comes on TV once and says, brothers and sisters, my Kuki and Meitei brothers and sisters, I appeal for peace, that will make a difference. It will. So I think that's the first thing, the most important thing. And that is what Meiteis and Kukis, by the way, a lot of Meiteis are angry with Biren Singh and the BJP because they think that the BJP is not protecting them. And one way of protection is an appeal for peace. So to me, that is numero uno. The Prime Minister comes on TV, accepts that there is a problem and says, please, let's just rectify it. The second thing I think that would really help is a sincere, and I emphasize on the word sincere, a sincere crackdown on arms, on weapons. Because as long as weapons are out there, it's not going to get fixed, because someone is going to die and then some retaliation is going to happen. And it's very easy to retaliate when you have a lot of weapons in you. That's number two. And I think the third really important thing is ये जो all party meets हो रहे हैं, ये जो joint committees बन रहे हैं, you really have to work them in a way where all communities feel secure. For example, yesterday there was that all-party meet, June 24. Usme, first of all, that all-party meet happened in Delhi, not in Imphal, which is ridiculous in the first place. That's disrespectful. And the second thing was, Biren Singh was not there. And the third thing was, Okram Singh Ibobi. He's a 3-time former Manipur CM. Biren Singh became CM in 2017. Ibobi was CM from 2002 to 2017. He was there, Congress Party ka. He was barely allowed to speak. So, all of this just seems very superficial. These attempts for peace and all-party committees seem very superficial because तुम ठीक से कर नहीं रहे हो. तुम इम्फाल में नहीं कर रहे, CM नहीं है, former CM है 15 साल वाला, उसको तुम बोलने नहीं दे रहे. तो ये जो attempts देख रहे हैं, ये sincere नहीं लग रहे. पब्लिक को तो लग ही नहीं रहे, मेरे को भी नहीं लग रहा, और मैं तो मणिपुर का हूँ भी नहीं. मैं तो सुपरफिशियल आउटसाइडर सरफेस लेवल ऑब्जर्वर हूँ, और मैं देख रहा हूँ और मेरे को लग रहा है कि ये ऐसे कैसे चलेगा. सो इमेजिन द सेंटिमेंट्स ऑफ द पीपल हु आर देयर सफरिंग. सो दैट टू मी इज अनदर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग, सिंसियर अटेम्प्ट्स एट पीस एंड डायलॉग. एंड द लास्ट थिंग इज पोस्ट फैक्टो. द लास्ट थिंग इज आफ्टर यू डू ऑल दीज थ्री प्रॉपर्ली इज जस्ट फुल फोकस ऑन रिहैबिलिटेशन, getting people back, because man, I visited,
That'll take years.
It'll take years. The trust to come back will take years. I visited a lot of relief camps. I visited people who are like living in absolute pathetic conditions. And you know, they might go back home to a burnt house, but at least they'll feel safe. Right now, people are just living in relief camps without electricity. They're living in relief camps where like 50 to 100 people have to use one washroom. It's like war zone to hai, but there is much more to a war zone. What happens to a war zone when the war is done? The people still suffer. So you need a huge economic package, a huge rehabilitation plan. But like I said, all of that is post facto. All of that is after these things are done. So yeah, that would be my list.
I mean, I didn't expect you would have chronologically ordered, but that's great. क्योंकि एक वेक सोल्यूशन या फिर एक टुवर्ड्स ऑब्जेक्टिव रियलिटी की तरफ हम नहीं बढ़े, सब्जेक्टिव छोड़ दे. इट डजंट मेक सेंस टू मी एवर. बट डूइंग दैट, आई लव द कॉन्वर्सेशन. आई हैड lot of insights and takeaways from this. Thank you, bro. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for
having me here. And yeah, all the very best.
A lot more to come, bro.
Yes,
Thank you.
Absolutely.